Thanks for staying up later. Tom Hanks is with us. We'll start by talking about his new film, Philadelphia. I'm sure you've seen Robert Altman's quote. He said they're going to nominate 4 other guys, but they might as well just hand the Oscar to Tom Hanks right now.
It's amazing that Robert Altman even knows my name. It's very sweet and it's intimidating. It's kind of scary and embarrassing. But the first time you see it, yeah, it's a big thrill. It's a nice thing.
How intimidating was the role itself?
Well, it's a selfish act to take on a job like this. I mean, to work with, a lot of it is kind of show business, blah, blah, but Jonathan Demme is a great filmmaker who does all this fascinating stuff. And he's complete. As a matter of fact, when I met him, I said, I don't know what a Jonathan Demme movie is, what is it? Is it Stop Making Sense, or is it that Howard Hughes thing you did, or is it...
Or is
that really spooky movie you just made? What is it? And he said, well, that's really the trick. So to work with him and to be with Denzel, I mean, obviously, with all of the importance that kind of surrounds it like a big banner, it's no small undertaking. But this is my gig, and to have a chance to do something that is as potentially good and at the same time good-hearted as all that. I mean, I still got paid. I mean,
Did you?
Oh yeah, they still gave me some money to do it. So knowing that it was going to be a pretty prolonged experience emotionally and whatnot. But
maybe I assume too much. There's been a lot of press about this, but for those of you who haven't seen it, Tom plays a lawyer, young lawyer with a lot of potential, contracts AIDS and is fired by the law firm. He contends because they found out he had AIDS. Yeah. They charged that he was incompetent. It's based on a story of a real guy in Cleveland.
In fact, it's not officially.
There are differences.
There are so many. Actually, in some ways it's like ripped right out of today's headlines. It's happened to so many guys, even some in Philadelphia. But there's probably 100 cases like it.
And Denzel Washington plays an attorney who is himself homophobic, but eventually comes around not only to understand your legal case, but to have some real empathy for you.
It's funny, in a lot of the press releases that come out for the movie, I am a hotshot attorney, and Denzel is a streetwise attorney.
Right.
I wonder how they came up with those two superlatives.
I guess the black guy is streetwise.
Maybe.
And the young yuppier-looking guy has to be a hotshot.
Does this mean that you threw away the book and hit the streets in order to avenge the partner that they killed, or something like that? But yeah, he's streetwise, and I'm what was it? Hot.
You're a hotshot.
I'm a hotshot.
Because of the theme, there's going to be pressure from both sides of the aisle. Sort of, it has to be all things to all people. You've heard that already, right?
Yeah, and that's a problem. Without question, this is the first. We don't back down from the fact this is the first big-budget Hollywood movie to deal with the subject matter of AIDS in America, and I do play somebody who is without question a homosexual, and all of that stuff is a kind of hoopla and an attention that the movie has. It's hard to go off and make to hit the true emotional human story without thinking, well, are we purposefully trying to shock some people? Are we purposely trying to placate some people? If we do this, does this mean that we're having the obligatory scene of this nature? Oh, you know what? So you're constantly walking a tightrope if you allow yourself to think that way. So you just have to throw it all away and play ball.
Yeah, obviously there have been other movies with well-known actors in them that had homosexual themes. You think of William Hurt in Kiss of the Spider Woman. He kisses Raul Julia on screen.
Right.
But this is different for a couple of reasons. First of all, AIDS isn't just mentioned, it's right at the heart of it. So it isn't just a homosexual character, but AIDS is at the heart of it. And another part of it, and I hope I don't embarrass you by saying this, is William Hurt is a terrific actor. John Lithgow cross-dressing. John Lithgow is a terrific actor. But Tom Hanks is a guy that most Americans have a certain feeling about. They're comfortable with you. They think of you as a boy-next-door guy. And therefore, I don't think the casting of you in this role is coincidental.
Well, you know, I understand what you're saying, and that's probably true. I'm very, what's the word? Non-threatening. You know, I'll say that instead of likable because I'm so sick of that. Although I'm pretty cheerful. The fact that I carry very little kind of political posturing with me in any role or wherever I go. So yeah, I probably am one of the paving stones in the footpath of accessibility that the movie has, but. That was reflected in the role. It's not like they watered down anything. I am probably, as a fact, I think I am much closer to the character I play in this, even though he is a hotshot lawyer who happens to be homosexual and be gay. I'm closer to him, Andy Beckett, than I was to Jimmy Dugan in the baseball movie. I mean, that was a much greater stretch, really.
Yeah, the manager in a league.
Right, yeah, and the fat guy who used to be, you know, who hit 376 home runs or whatever he did. But I'm sure that part of the fact that I was in it in the first place is that I do have the cachet of being able to take the audience by the hand and say, come on, don't be, there's nothing to be afraid of here. Come on, it'll be fun. It's going to be interesting. Come on! And yeah. I'm able to do that through a lot of my movies. It's
early now because as we tape this, the movie has just premiered this week. By the time it airs, more people will have seen it. But what's the most interesting feedback you've gotten so far?
Oh, well, the most, I tell you, without question, is that we have been able to magically sort of dispel, without ever breaking that sense of import that the movie has. Everybody expects these things to be important. Everybody expects this to be, what's the word, politically charged or whatever it is. Everybody was waiting for this movie to be made in so many ways. What we've been able to do, and I sort of not would saying this, is that it still has that, but people are saying it's also just, it's better than we thought it was going to be. It's more involving than we thought. It's not 2 hours of rhetoric that we're supposed to listen to and agree with.
No, it succeeds as a drama.
Yeah, that's what makes me feel the best about everything that I've been on one of those show business publicity blitzes for the last 6 days, and to hear that is kind of like is a breath of fresh air, because I've done other movies that had all that kind of, this is the one we've all been waiting for, and it is so disappointing to everybody when it finally comes out that it's enough to give you the willies.
But we know that the critical response has been good, and with you and Denzel Washington, not to mention Jason Robards, Mary Steenburgen and others are in it. Joanne Woodward does an excellent turn in the film. You know, it's got the name recognition that usually leads to some kind of box office success, but there's an expectation attached to this. If Joe and the Volcano doesn't do good business, that doesn't mean, gee, folks won't pay to see adventure films with weird themes, okay? If Bonfire of the Vanities goes down the toilet in every respect, which it did, people don't say, you know what, don't take a best-selling book and try to make a movie out of it anymore.
Hard to
but
do.
Whether it makes sense or not, a lot of people think that the future of films that would deal with homosexuality and with AIDS, at least big-budget films, not art house films, rests on how well this does.
Well, I'm not stupid. I know that's the way an awful lot of the business works. So yeah, that's true. But that's true regardless of what, you know, why we made the movie in the first place. But we can't address that. We just hope that, you know, we made a halfway decent movie. But maybe it would have been easier just to make one of those terrorists on a jet plane film. But then if our movie didn't do well, then how many terrorists on a jet plane film would be made after that?
I think the number would go from maybe 30 or 40 a year down to 18 or 20.
They do well in those foreign markets, Bob.
How much conversation about the theme of Philadelphia did you have with Jonathan Demme and about his attitudes? Because it's interesting, he's coming off Silence of the Lambs, and as critically acclaimed as that was, and as much box office as it did, a large portion of at least the activist homosexual community was upset with this portrayal of a cross-dressing serial killer. They picketed Oscar night. They hit him with it. Now he's in a position of being able to, if this is the way he wants to view it, right that wrong.
Well, Jonathan doesn't operate that way, and he knows, we all both know, that really you can't take two rocks and stack them up on each other without being picketed by the Free Rock Society, you know. How dare you take those rocks from their natural element and stack them on top of each other? Who do you think you are? You know, there's all, he can tell you this better than I, but this story has been in this, Philadelphia was being written over the course of 5 years. It all encompasses, it overlaps.
Screenwriters get it.
Yeah, they don't, and Jonathan's active involvement on it has been that long. So this is no answer to anybody's barbs or protests. But in the very first discussion we had about this, I thought the problem with the AIDS story, as told by Hollywood, was that it is an unrelentingly tragic story that plays out just again and again and again. And I had read other scripts, projects that were trying to be made about the same stuff, and it was always that. It was just the same scene repeatedly until the movie finally ends, thank goodness, and you can leave. This has all the other purely cinematic and contrived story elements that every Hollywood movie has to have, of what my character's relationship with Denzel's character, the trial that goes on, a couple of other things in the movie as well, made it something that was going to be accessible to the same movie audience that is choosing, maybe they'll go see Cool Runnings today, you know. And that was I think that was the work that spearheaded Jonathan's efforts, much more than answering anybody's critiques about his past work.
Are you anticipating, if you haven't gotten it yet, are you anticipating a reaction from people who genuinely like you, they're fans of yours, and they're going to say, why, Tom? Why do this? We're so uncomfortable with this.
I'm not anticipating it, but I won't be shocked should it happen. I also walk, I'm like everybody else. I usually hang around with people who are pretty much like me and share the same views. Yeah. And they all just think it's great, and they want the movie, and then they understand all the stuff that goes along with it. But it's going to be curious, should that ever happen, to be in an airport or on a plane and have somebody say, you know, I don't appreciate the work. If that happens, I'll just say, well, my friend, if we live next door to each other, we can disagree, but I'd still look out for your property if you were on vacation. Would you do the same for me?
I think somebody's going to pigeonhole you on an airplane someplace and say something like this. Great portrayal, and the person's going to say, nothing but compassion for the character you played, nothing but compassion for the human suffering and the humanity of people who are HIV positive. But by doing such a sympathetic job, you're blurring a distinction which is important to us, and that is the Arthur Ashers of the world are innocent victims. But your character's plight is the result. Even as we sympathize with him, don't get me wrong, they're going to say, we have nothing against him, we understand his human suffering, but his suffering is the result of his own behavior, and let's not blur that distinction. You're going to get people saying that.
Oh, we will never, no one will ever change their minds. That's absolutely true. The idea out there that my character got what he deserved somehow. Okay, all right. I have a cold right now. I've been fighting a cold for about 3 or 4 weeks. There are people out there who honestly think that I have this cold because I took on this job. They'll say, see, he can't go off and push the movie because of the subject matter. I am being punished somehow by a supreme being.
Well, that's a little extreme.
No, it's not, because I tell you, it goes back to, I remember being around somebody, and I swear to goodness this is true, that remember when Apollo 8 orbited the moon for the first time? They didn't land on the moon, but they actually made it to the moon and circled it for the first time. It was the first time an American spacecraft escaped orbit.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
And where we lived, we had torrential rains. And I swear somebody said, you see, we are not supposed to leave this Earth. This storm is going on right now for a very specific reason. We're not supposed to be up there on that moon. And I'm thinking, you know, the sun is shining in Florida. Just a few miles away, it's just cloudy.
And then
that's some mindset that exists. There's no question about it.
And the very summer that men walked on the moon, the Mets won the World Series.
Now what kind of goofiness is that?
Go figure. Explain that if you can.
Hello, Boog Powell. Hello. You going to tell me the team without Boog Powell is going to win the World Series?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Can You Top This Reference? Dennis Miller will join us momentarily.
No, stop us before we sub-reference again, as Dennis said.
What do you think this means for your career? You don't strike me as a calculating guy, but you must give it some thought.
You know, I just hope that from a purely selfish actor point of view, that the people will consider me for everything. But in fact, I got the variety factor of my work options jumped substantially from the baseball movie. When I did that, suddenly I was being considered for a lot more different kinds of stuff than I had been before. Now the thing that I would hope would not happen is that people think I'm only looking for socially conscious movies that deal with important themes that are ripped right out of today's headlines. That would turn me into some sort of, I don't know, political hack.
So A League of Their Own was an important turning point. Is that because
in a goofy way, yeah.
Is that because it was the first one after Bonfire of the Vanities? You took some time off after Bonfire, right?
Well, I almost made another movie that fell apart, actually. We were almost going to go off and do that. So it wasn't, part of it was on purpose, but part of it was also by accident. But it's fun, you know, people always ask me, what was the fallout of Bonfire of the Vanities? And I said, well, the fallout is that we made a movie that everybody hated. And it takes a little while to get over that, but there's no reason to go off and crawl. You know, sometimes you win the pennant, and sometimes you finish second to last, you know, that's, or last, as the case may be. But you still get up and swing away. But the important thing about, well, this is the important show business factor of League was that I wasn't the main guy in the movie. I got to be reunited with Penny, who I had done some really great work with before, Penny Marshall. And that it was a big, massive ensemble movie that had all of this, you know, entertainment value. I think it just made everybody feel great who saw the movie. But in the course of that, I got to play a guy who had a much kind of deeper dilemma that he was working himself through. And I think that's a great combination for any movie.
What did you learn? This, I guess, sounds trite, but has to be asked. What did you learn about your own attitudes about homosexuality?
Well, truly, I thought I was as enlightened an average white heterosexual American as you'd come across. But the degree of ignorance took me by surprise on two fronts. By the very nature of what I thought I knew about the virus and how it infects the body. A very scientific, medical kind of thing, of which, you know, you can't, we've been reading about this for 12 years now. I thought I knew what there was to know, but I had to speak to a doctor at UCLA who's been working on this since its beginning. And the way he described to me what goes on was incredibly eye-opening. What happens to literally your flesh and bone. Armed with that, and then going off and talking to an awful lot of guys who had it, and also working with men who had it. And there's men and women in the movie who are their immune system is doing battle right now. I was almost feeling as though I was a mercenary in utilizing their whatever they would give me information. But what I learned the most is that I have much more in common with these people, and we all do. It sounds like a big life lesson that you learn, and I'm not making some sort of, you know, sociological you know, tract by saying this, but I had so much more in common with these men who were supposed to be so different from me than I would have imagined. And it goes back to, you know, we were all the same kind of kids in the same kind of atmosphere. We all had the same sort of confused and lonely adolescences, and we all sort of figured out who we were more or less right about the same time. And there's an awful lot of stuff that's all wrapped up in that. And it's not that goofy a lesson to learn, but nonetheless, I was surprised by that.
Tom Hanks' new film, Philadelphia, also starring Denzel Washington, is at a theater near you. Go and check it out. In the meantime, we'll be back with Tom tomorrow night. Hope to see you then. And until then, see you later.